The views and opinions expressed on the Cap are those of the hosts. They do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of OldMilk Media. Any opinions stated aren't intended to offend anyone. On this episode of the Cap Podcast, we react to Y2K by Ice Spice. Welcome back. This is episode 513 of your critical but accurate tour through hip hop, the Cap Podcast. We are your tour guides. I am Nate Sperlin. That is Taylor McLeod. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you might be tuning in. Feel free to go ahead and join the conversation by leaving a comment, liking this video, and subscribing to the channel. Taylor, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm back on the East Coast. Back on the East Coast. I think this is like the first show that you and I have recorded on the same time zone in quite a while. This is how it started. Now we're back. So I'm definitely excited about that.
Yeah,
Definitely
and
excited about that.
ironically, we're recording at what your usual time would be, not mine.
Yes. Yeah. So usually some inside baseball. Usually we would record at like 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 or 1 or 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 10 or 11 for me out there. But now we're going at 10:30 Eastern.
Yes.
So
coming to you semi-live. But anyway,
teamwork makes the dream work.
hey man, that's been the basis of the show, man. But anyway, once again on this episode of the Cat Podcast, we are reacting to Y2K by Ice Spice. This album is 10 tracks, 23 minutes long, featuring Travis Scott, Gunna, and Central C. Taylor, what did you think about Y2K?
I am not and I haven't been since the beginning. I've been actually pretty interested in how Ice Spice was going to progress through her career, right? So what is this, like year 2 of her being like in the
Yeah.
in the spotlight for us?
Yeah.
I think that she is an incredibly charismatic character, charismatic artist, but this this project, like the charisma just doesn't translate into the music, right? Like I think there's a lot of really disjointed songs on this album, and for it to be called Y2K and to not really seem to have anything to do with Y2K is I don't know. I think I think in terms of a Y2K thing, I think we've already had 2 better examples this year, right? Like I think Pink Panthers and Flo Milli both do a better job of actually capturing that era, I guess. And I understand that this it wasn't specifically supposed to be like a album that sounded like it was from the year 2000, but it is a lot of it just doesn't make sense, right? A lot of it feels thrown together, and that's disappointing because I do think that in the beginning there was some meme hype with Ice Spice that was you know what I mean? Like it was definitely taking off because of that, but when she put out that first little EP, that 5-song EP, I was like, "Oh, okay, she's really rapping." And I was excited about that. But then we get Y2K and it just I don't know. I just feel like it's unorganized. I don't know. Whatever I thought I saw isn't here right now.
Yeah. First of all, quick disclaimer. This album isn't meant for us. We are 2 men, and Ice Spice's target demographic, it appears, is women. So just off the bat, this
Yeah.
album isn't meant for us. However, I will say that we have reviewed quite a few albums that aren't meant for us this season. I Most recently we reviewed Megan by Megan Thee Stallion. And we both were able to find things that we enjoyed from that album, even though we're not the target demographic for that album. And the same thing can be said for Fine Ho Stay by Flo Milli. Again, we're not the target demographic for that album either, but we both were able to find things and come away with things that we liked about each of those albums. That being said, I have to be honest. This is probably the most disappointing debut album I've ever heard. Some people who have been watching us for years may bring up the Jack Harlow album, but the thing about that is I didn't believe in Jack Harlow from the beginning. So I can't be disappointed in something that I didn't believe in. That's just how it is. But that being said, I when Ice Spice first came out, I did have belief that her artistry would grow. Um, but it doesn't appear like it has at all. I think it appears that some the team just isn't a team. It everything is just all over the place. It seems like they're putting in more effort for the out of music antics. I think with this album, we first of all, before this album came out, we saw her everywhere. Like we were already seeing her everywhere, but it felt like over the past month we have been increasingly seeing her more and more and more. And it feels like they put more effort into the rollout than the music on the actual album. Um, I the and also on top of that, because the only reason why this kind of feels like an album to me is because of the amount of effort they put into the rollout. Because you're not going to put this much effort into a rollout if it's just like some other tape that really in the grand scheme of things, at least from a label's perspective, doesn't really matter. So there's a certain aura that I expect from a debut album that just simply isn't here. Typically what I expect from a debut album is an artist trying to tell their story, however they may choose to do it, giving their target demographic more ways to relate to them, more ways to or ways to endear the artist to the target demographic is what I'm expecting. And none of that is really here. It just really feels like a bunch of hit attempts put together, slapped together, really. And with that, even the hit attempts aren't the same. Like Give Me a Light and Fart are not the same legit hits that Munch and Boys Alive Part 2 were. Boys Alive Part 2 took over the world, Munch took over the world. Give Me a Light and Fart, Give Me a Light didn't chart, and Fart charted probably like high 60s, if I'm not mistaken.
I Yeah, I got no idea. I'm not. First of all, something to know about me is I don't do the. We got a lot of references to some disgusting shit here. You know what I mean? I don't do that. That's one thing that I can't get past. We got a lot of. I don't even like saying it, man. You know what I'm talking about. We
Yeah.
just got a lot of literal. We got a lot of literal shit on this album, right? And I don't understand that. But what you said is it's these are 10 songs that all seem like they have the same angle of hoping to blow up. And like you said, yes, this is a debut album, but you don't get anything about like Ice Spice. You know what I
No.
mean?
Not
Nothing.
like
It's just like it's like unfortunately this seems like the what you and I have been talking about for 3 years now, right? Where it's like it's very like because you and I talk about it all the time. We're like, oh, like what song on this is for TikTok, right? Like this is
mhm.
10 songs for TikTok. Right. And like it so it feels so empty. And like you said, there's so much money around the or so much effort put into the promotion and the marketing. And then the music sounds like this. And it's like, what are we supposed to get from this? It's like it almost seems like this is like a real life like TikTok video. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like and I know that you don't listen to music for that and I don't listen to music for that. So it's like even something I like there's nothing on here that I'm like, oh, this like you know, and now I'm more invested in like Ice Spice's career. And it's unfortunate because like, you know what I mean? Like she seems like I said, she's very charismatic and it just isn't this album is like the opposite of that, right? It feels like she
Mhm.
has such a potential to do like the I I, I don't know.
I
It's hard to
was
describe, man.
I
Like
was
it's
more
hard to describe it.
impressed. I was more impressed with the beat selection and the production than
Yeah.
anything Ice Spice did. If anything, the thing that like if I had to take away something from this album, it would be that Riot is a really good producer. But besides that, in terms of like Ice Spice goes, like it the team needs to change. It just needs to change because there's just no artist development going on here at all. And coming like with Ice Spice, the way that Ice Spice popped out and understanding that she really went viral with her third song, you knew that there would be well, at least I knew, and I'm sure you knew too, Taylor, that there would need to be a period of artist development for her to actually stick. And instead, they just been plastering her everywhere and not focusing on the music at all. And I like if the goal is to just be an influencer and like who does music on the side, cool. But at the same time, you can't be dissing people while while the main thing isn't the main thing. It doesn't make sense to me. Um,
No.
I also will say some of like I will give her a little bit of credit because I think there are some attempts for her to kind of grow her artistry on this album, but it feels like she did it once and then she was satisfied with it. And then she was like, okay, we can put this out. versus trying to perfect the sound that she's trying to go for on these songs. So overall, like it's just really disappointing. The features don't really make much sense to me either. It seems like they prioritize name recognition over the fit of the features, and we could get into that more when we get to the song by song, which probably isn't going to be long, honestly. But that, along with the fact that it's 10 songs, 23 minutes, that doesn't feel debut-ish to me at all. Like a debut album. You're not telling a story really. You're just trying to, again, it's just making a bunch of hits. And before we get to repeating ourselves, I think we probably should get to the song by song. Um, so I mean, Fat Butt, that's the first track here. It feels like Ice Spice is trying to use a more traditional flow, but it just feels like a rush song. Taylor, I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you have an opinion
No,
on any of these.
I'm
So I'm
not
just gonna,
really.
yeah. So I'm just gonna go through.
There's
You can
little
stop me.
moments. No, no,
Okay,
no.
go
There's
ahead.
little moments here. There's little moments here where obviously she sounds a little like Nicki Minaj, right?
Mhm.
And there's parts of me that's just like lean into it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I understand that like you don't want to just like make an album, cosplaying another artist because speaking of something we just did, Jack Harlow, that second album he put out, it's like, oh, he's trying to make a Drake album,
Mhm.
right? And so I get it, right? You don't want him to do a whole album of that, but it is like, yo, if that's your bag right now and you're young and this is your first album and you just need to like get these flows off right, it like then I'd rather hear that than some of the other stuff here. You know what I mean? Like it's like at least if you're gonna follow that path, at least like Nicki was a great rapper for like what 15 years,
Yeah.
right? Like at least you know what I mean. All the other stuff aside, right? You can put it all like in terms of just rapping. It's like man, if that's where it's leading you, then like go. You know what I mean? It's like it, but I don't know.
Um, on Oh Shit, I mean, Ice Spice has a nice verse. Travis Scott doesn't make sense there at all. Um, Papa, I like that. The beat selection, I like that beat selection. I like the tempo of that beat. I think that we get a new Ice Spice flow in that beat. And I think that probably is one of the more successful songs on the album. I would like to hear that beat, that flow more, that type of beat more from Ice Spice. But again, it's not, it doesn't seem like it's fully developed. Um, on Bitch I'm Packing, Ice Spice, once again, solid verse from her, but then Gunna also doesn't make sense on the song. Like Gunna's doing his thing. It makes more sense than Travis Scott, but it still doesn't make sense. Um, and then we have Plenty Sun. I don't like how she closes out the first verse, repeating the same thing for 5 lines, and it's not even catchy. Doesn't make sense to me. Did it first. I think that's probably the epitome of my issues with everything going on with having to do with Ice Spice right now. Um, Central C doesn't really make sense either. They're trying to make it seem like Central C and Ice Spice are in a relationship. I don't really know what's going on with that. It's like a whole thing on TikTok.
Yeah, man.
Um,
It's to the point too where that other Central C's like either girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or whatever, how like heavy she's going into it. I'm like, oh, she's in on like the promotion with them.
yeah,
You know
like
what I mean? I don't know if it's true, but
it's so
you know,
weird because I actually saw a TikTok of her saying, "I don't want to be a part of this," and she's seemingly continuing to feed into it to be a part of it, which
yeah,
doesn't.
exactly.
None of this makes sense. But like again, like I want to say over the past week or two, we've been seeing Ice Spice and Central C together. Like together, I guess. Like I just said. But again, it just seems like they're putting more effort in building this atmosphere around Ice Spice and Central C's relationship or whatever it is than they are for this actual song because it doesn't feel like anything is going on here that is noteworthy or something that I could take away from it. Really, besides, okay, I guess Central C can rap. Um, Pretty sure Ice Spice is dissing Lotto on Fart to the point where I'm pretty sure Lotto dissed her back. Give Me a Light samples Give Me the Light by Sean Paul. I don't like the beat at all. And then finally
Yeah,
TTYL, which is one of the better songs.
she's really yelling on
Yeah,
"Give Me a
she's yelling
Light."
on that for sure.
She's on a
And
Rob 49 shit. She's just
And finally on TTYO, I like the aggressiveness that Ice Spice is rapping with there. I feel like we probably should hear more of that in the future. Um, I don't want to fully blame Ice Spice because
no.
she's it's like blaming the rookie quarterback for throwing 20 interceptions when the play calling is just terrible the whole season.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that's just what this is. This is just a victim of bad play calling. They didn't really put her in the right positions to succeed musically. They put her in the right positions for it to succeed outside of music. But again, like when the main thing isn't the main thing, in this case, music, everything else can't be like you can't be supported by things that aren't the main thing. When the antics
yeah.
outside of music start to be bigger than the actual music, then that's a problem for a career. Um, Taylor, any thoughts before we get to playback value?
No, it's I mean, I feel the same way. This project specifically feels like when an actor or actress who gets famous young
Mhm.
like starts to age out a little bit and then they're like, fuck it, I do music now. You know what I mean?
JoJo
And then
Siwa.
I no, I'm not that's not where I'm going, but it this doesn't feel like an album from a rapper.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And which is
yeah,
disappointing because like when at Rice Ice first popped, it was like because of Munch, right? And obviously
yeah.
there's a virality to that, but like her other songs during that period, it was like, okay, she's really rapping. You know what I mean? And people have different opinions on that, but like when I when Munch first blew up, and then I'm like on YouTube trying to find other Ice Spice songs, and I I don't even know the name of it. The one where she's rapping in the convenience store in the uh shit. I don't know.
She's like, you did me
She's
dirt.
yeah, she's like
That's
sliding on
no
it, and it's
clarity.
like yeah, and so like she's rapping super well, and like we mentioned, like that first 5 song EP is a little repetitive, but like I liked it. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, like cool, like Ice Spice is here, and then this just feels like a step back. So we'll see what happens. This probably should have been like a mixtape, you know, or marketed as a mixtape
Hmm.
because it's 10 songs, and 10 songs, 23 minutes, man. Usually I would be like, wow, that's amazing, but I don't want 2.5 minute songs. I don't want two
Yeah,
minute songs. I like, 10 minutes or 10 songs, like 34 minutes. You know what I mean? Something like that. But this is like, I don't know. There, like you said, there's just a lot to be disappointed with here.
I'm trying to. Okay, so the EP that you're referring to is actually longer than this album. It's
And that was what,
11.
5 songs, right?
No, it was 11 songs. It's
Oh, for
11
some reason I thought it was five.
songs and 24 minutes long, which isn't, I mean, for EP, isn't bad.
Yo, for
Um,
your first 2 projects together to be 47 minutes is insane.
yeah. Oh, actually, let me actually clear something up. So it started off being 7 songs, and then 4 songs were added to it. So what I just
Okay,
read to
all
you
right,
was the deluxe version, but the original
gotcha.
version was 7 songs and 16 minutes long. But either way, there needs to be more length. It's like the starter, the pitcher who doesn't give you 5 innings like you're expecting him
Yeah,
to.
no, you're right.
Um,
Ice Spice
so
is going 4 2/3, man. We
yeah,
need, come on, at least get us to the sixth,
at least let us
right?
get the bullpen in. Got to save those arms
Yeah.
for the next game. But let's talk playback value. Taylor, thoughts?
I mean, for me, it has none. But
Yeah.
even if this was like, you know, Ice Spice's magnum opus, right? I don't know if it would have any playback value for me because, like you said, I'm not the target for this, right? Like, I'm not like jumping in the car and putting on fat butt. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, Ice Spice, it's just not happening. Objectively, I also don't think this has very much because I don't think there's a song here, unless like the Lotto stuff blows up, and then Think You This Shit really like circles back around. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
But
Like
that kind of passed already though, because Lotto had
that's what I'm
already
saying.
responded to her. So
Right, right. That's what I'm saying. So unless it pops back up, I really don't think this has very much playback value. I'll give it like a week or two. I guess if like did it first, could have some legs if this whole thing keeps going, right?
mhm.
Like this whole thing with Central C's ex-girlfriend and whatever, and them posting videos doing push-ups and shit. Like I don't even know what's going on, man. I feel this album makes me feel so old, right? Like
Yeah.
it makes me feel ancient, right? So I'm for me, this got no has no playback value. Objectively, I'm gonna say 1 week because I don't really know what else it
Yeah.
could be.
I mean, I got a week for objectively and subjectively. I'm not listening to this again. Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. I mean, it's what I said to start. Really, it's like I think Ice Spice has so much charisma, right? Like her interviews are great. She knows how to use social media well. You know what I mean? Like even keeping her Twitter where it looks like a regular person's Twitter account, I think is important, right? Because it does. have this like genuineness to it, this authenticity, if you will. Um, but it just doesn't translate to the music, which is super disappointing. So that, I think she's very charismatic, but I don't think it's showing up in the music. In terms of like favorite tracks, I've been doing this a little more lately, where I don't have three because I'm not gonna make up a third if I don't have it. I like Did It First with Central C. I think that sounds like the most finished song here, and then I like Talk to You Later.
Okay. My final thoughts are Ice Spice disappoints fans with a debut album that wasted its effort on rollout instead of the actual music. Ice Spice still has time to turn it around. However, the clock is ticking. My top three tracks are number three, Talk to You Later, number two, Bitch I'm Packing, and number one, Papa. All right, this has been the Cat Podcast, episode 513. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to leave your opinion of Y2K by Ice Spice in the comments below. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video or episode, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Follow Old Milk on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Old Milk Media. Check out oldmilk.co for more information. I'm Nate Sperlin. That is Taylor McLeod, and we will see you on the next episode where we talk about Mustard's new album, Faith of a Mustard Seed. And we will see you then. Thank you for watching again. We are out.